All right, okay, good evening, everyone. Hey, welcome to the session. So, as usual, I'll run through the markets over here, highlight some of the trades opportunities, and then we'll see if you guys have any questions. We'll take questions as we go, okay? So, good. With that said, last week ended off pretty good in a way where we have the gold trade hitting our target and kind of end of the week from there, um, not needing to hold it overnight. I would say over the weekend. So pretty great. I'll talk a little bit about that as we progress into the gold chart later on today as well. Okay. But let's start off with the dollar index. So dollar index perspective over here. Hey, I think you can clearly see what we have is a bearish channel. Market is actually pushing from the bottom of the channel to the upside. However, this entire development, it's very corrective overall. Okay, so which means that I'm actually very cautious in a way to kind of start looking for aggressive buy. Okay, because if this is just going to be very corrective, I mean, it can continue to push higher like that. But once it hits the top of the channel, there's a good possibility this might come down and even take out this low before the eventual kind of reversal, right? So overall, right now here, the take is just be a little bit patient. If we can get a pullback correctively towards this zone, then we can consider a upside push. Just temporary, maybe looking at something like that. Okay. Until price give us a very clean, impulsive break. Okay. I mean, if you visualize and extend this, right? If you get a very clean, impulsive break to the upside, then yes, we'll start to rotate the bias to look for upside. But until then, as I mentioned, we'll need to like kind of keep track how price is going to continue to develop from here on. Okay. Then we have the euro dollar. Okay, so same thing here. You can see euro dollar is coming down very corrective as of now. Okay. So again, not surprising if you kind of extend this here, we can potentially see one more upside before the move down. So same thing, okay, overall with the dollar index, just want to be a little bit patient for now, give the market sufficient time to develop before kind of coming back to that. Okay, GBP USD here seems to be quite clean in terms of the direction wise for momentum. Okay, we did see price coming down pretty aggressively, I would say, especially this part. Okay, last week we were looking at the possibility of a push up before the move down. But of course, we can see that market just continue to move lower, right? So overall, we do get a topping formation here as well. You can see, a little bit of a double top, liquidity sweep. This is a very clean break. This is a very clean break. So I would say, if we can get a corrective pullback, right? I think overall we'll be looking at the sell. Alternatively, if you are more into the shorter term perspective, right? You can consider to look for impulsive push and then a pullback. You can trade this pullback trade to the upside, right? Potentially towards this key areas. Today, I would say what we are seeing here is still very early stage. There's really no setup that is kind of like developing at the moment. Price is also testing, I would say, the previous market imbalance zone. Okay, so you don't want to be too aggressive in kind of jumping into this trade at the moment. Just see how price is going to develop again. Give it another 1 or 2 days. I'll update you guys along the way, right, on a on a daily basis throughout the week as well. Right, so that's a take on GBP. Really nothing too much at the moment. Aussie dollar. Okay, Aussie dollar did test the top. Okay, I would say kind of still testing. We didn't really get a break. We did get an attempt, kind of a little bit of a poke to the upside. A couple of attempts, but you can see a lot of wick. So right now, I would say again, Aussie dollar probably you don't want to be committing too much into a particular direction. You just want to see how price is going to develop from here first. Hey, Couple of things to note, right? This is definitely an impulsive leg. If price comes down correctively and take out this low and start to show signs of a reversal, that's a very good opportunity to buy. Okay. Alternative scenario here is that this starts to develop into a crawl. Okay. Then what will happen is we'll look for a first sign of a reversal. We'll look to trade this to the downside. Right. So we have like two potential scenario plans. We just need to see how price is going to develop from here on. Okay. So again, patient game, right? Dollar Canadian. Dollar Canadian is something that you can look out for. Again, I shared this setup here. Today's morning report as well. The analysis is pretty straightforward, right? We have this low, price went up, came back down, form a nice little bounce. We have this as a potential crawl, right? And if you can get a corrective pullback towards a key area between the key area between 1.3640, 1.3620, that will be a good area to look for a potential buy. Okay. So very simple structure, three-wave expectation. And of course, in the lower time frame, we do have the setup there as well, right? If you go over to the dollar Canadian, right, that's the setup that we're looking at. Again, we have confluences of the demand zone or the block, right? We have a little bit of fair value gap. I mean, in hourly, there are a couple of candles, but if you go to a higher time frame, that's where you can see the fair value gap market imbalances. And right now, we're kind of expecting price to actually pull back, right? Ideally, of course, you don't want it to pull back too impulsively. You want it to be corrective in nature, and then that will be your nice little trade setup to the upside. Now, for this particular trade, what you can consider, of course, we just stick to a very simple standard. If you kind of look at this here, is a 1:2 risk to reward ratio. Alternatively, you can go for more. Of course, again, if you go to the higher time frame on H4, we are expecting this to form sort of a channel structure, right? Okay, so you expect it to actually break where the previous high is, which puts you around 1.38. So if you extend this all the way to 1.38, okay, your risk reward increases to 1:3.25, right? 1:3. So what you can do here, of course, you can manage in terms of like partial profits as well. Okay, you can have like partial profits when it hits this high, and then you can throw your stops, manage your trade accordingly, and then aim for a secondary target. Hey, that's something you can consider for the dollar Canadian. Then next up we have the dollar yen. So dollar yen over here is testing the, I would say, coming close and testing potentially the top of the channel. So we're gonna be patient for now because depending on how price is gonna react at the top. Alright, I think this year the current expectation is probably gonna form somewhat of a crawl, and then we're probably gonna see some sort of a pullback. Or even potentially, all the way down to retest this low and then the bottom of the channel as well. That's a very good possibility. So we just want to be patient and see how price is going to develop and react off the top of the channel. If we're going to see some sort of just a corrective move like that, right? Now, obviously, this area will be a good area to consider the buy trade to the upside, and then we'll anticipate that price will eventually break out of the channel. Okay, so same thing here. Couple of potential scenario that can develop. You just need to be patient and just wait out, for price to give you that clarity in terms of like what structure it wants to develop into. Right, then we have gold. Okay, so gold here is where I mentioned, last week, we did have that decent trade somewhere around here, and price actually went up and kind of hit our targets there, right? Now, overall, direction-wise, we are still maintaining a bullish bias, but of course, price will not just move in one direction all the time. So right now, we're kind of expecting a pullback, right? And again, that pullback might give us an opportunity to look for a secondary buy trade. And overall, I'm still expecting bullish bias, right? So if you're looking at this, right, we are expecting a lot of upside potential eventually, right? Because this is the ultimate low that we're looking at. This is first wave up, the blue, this can be the pullback X, and this can be really developing something like this, right? So overall focus and bias is still bullish, meaning, we'll be looking at potential buy trade setups and opportunities in the lower time frame, right? While we're waiting for this pullback to complete, once it goes into our key area, that's where we look for a setup. Okay, just a very, very quick recap on the gold trade here, right? So you can see this is the trade that we took last week as well, right? Very nice little confluence of a order block with the Fib, right? Of course, you have a little bit of a channel structure there as well. I would say this is a pretty straightforward trade as well, because it tags into an entry, and then, without much drawdown, it starts to move in our favor. We can shift our stops and start protecting it. Okay. So obviously I'm out of this. But again, I can't mention, some of you may consider to hold this for the longer term. Just remember to throw your stops, right? Protect as much profits as possible, because you don't give away too much to the market, right? So moving forward, right, what will be the next setup that we can look into is, right now, if we're gonna look at it, okay, this area would naturally be our swing low at the moment. And I'll just remove a little bit of all this drawing here, yeah. Okay, what we have, of course, is a potential break of structure here, okay, or it can also be a short-term liquidity sweep. And then, of course, with that, we are expecting market pullback, right? But as long as price is able to respect this low, we are generally going to look out for buy trade opportunity. Okay, and of course, you can also see here, we do have a temporary pullback. Okay, so that is going to be what we call your order block, right? And very, very quickly, if I just take a reference point from this swing low to the swing high, around that 67 Fib is where the previous, minor swing low is as well. So overall, if we can get a nice little corrective pullback, okay, that can also present a nice little buy trade opportunity for us to consider, right? Of course, I wouldn't put in any potential pending order at the moment, right? Price is still closer to the top, and again, we don't expect the market to just come down and hit our entry within 1 or 2 days, because we want this to be developing correctively. So don't need to rush things through. Give it time. Let the market show us that it is indeed coming down correctively before we can put in the order. Okay, so I mean, what's correctively? You can see this is obviously corrective, right? This is impulsive, right? So you want the pullback to come down correctively. All right, so that's on the gold side of things. Okay. Yeah, I think I skipped through the CAD, right? But I mentioned this, right? So CAD is on that as well. So you can see similarity in terms of the setup, right? Gold setup. Well, before this, right? Last week, we're looking at this order block. Okay, you can see the similarity in the setup, right? We have this order block. We have the liquidity sweep with the break of structure. This is impulsive. This is corrective. We look to enter. Okay. And then if you look at what we are looking at in terms of dollar Canadian, right? Similar overall structure as well. We have like low gets broken, liquidity sweep. You have that break of structure there. We have the order block. Again, not all trades are going to be working out perfectly, but you can see the similarity in that setup itself, right? And this is something very important, because it becomes something that you can do it repetitively with consistency, right? And knowing that the risk to reward ratio is 1:2, you don't need to win every trade. Okay. Given if your win rate is just 50%, right? Out of 100 trades, you only win half of it. You're still gonna end up profitable because of the risk to reward ratio, right? The average risk reward ratio of all this setup here is gonna be 1:2, right? And we're just letting the statistics to play out for us, right? We're not going for like 100% win rate all the time, right? So hopefully that also makes sense to you guys. Silver. Hey, silver is one thing that kind of shifted our entire bias, right? Because last week we are looking at a pullback, right? We are anticipating silver to form a little bit of a three-wave move before the push. Again, that's the expectation. Doesn't mean the market needs to do that. and therefore we didn't really get it, and end up the market just made an impulsive push to the upside, right? But anyway, no trade was taken because there's no setup on silver. Okay, so right now what we're looking at for silver is obviously bullish bias because of that impulsive move, right? But we need to wait for a pullback, right? We want to see a corrective pullback, then only we commit to any potential buy trade. But looking at things here, I think silver and gold obviously is going to be more upside from here on. I do particularly like gold a little bit more, okay, because the entire structure is a little bit cleaner. Whereas silver here just ends off with an impulsive move, right? Doesn't mean you're gonna not get an opportunity to trade it. It's just that you probably need to be a little bit more patient because you want to wait for the pullback first. Okay. Then we have crude oil. Crude oil here, I would still say you want to stay out of it. In fact, I've already highlighted this since like end of June. You just be patient after this impulsive leg, right? Because this is looking very, very corrective. Okay. Now, will we eventually get one more leg down potential if this is just going to be corrective in its entire development? But again, I don't want to be looking at sell too soon. We have very, very clear kind of market imbalance here. We're just getting into that zone. If you take fit reference from the high to the low, okay, let's just put a 15,618. We are not there yet. Okay, so if price were to really just continue to pull back correctively and enters into the 15,618 area, then I think there's a high probability we'll wait for a pull cover reversal and then wait for the pullback, and then we'll look to sell it down back to the zone. Okay. So this needs time, right? So just need to be patient on that. Let the market enters into the key territory first. Good. S&P 500. Obviously, it's going to be bullish, but the expectation here is the market would likely develop a pullback. Okay, and the pullback here is something that we can consider short term as a trade. Okay, so what I'm looking at is the swing low minus swing low at 6200. We want to see an impulsive break below that to give us our first sign that the market is indeed correcting, is indeed starting its pullback, and then we'll look for a short-term sell. Okay. Now what we have over here is that the market has attempted to break that high but did not successfully break it. So that opens up a potential liquidity sweep or fake break. But the confirmation is for price to actually take out this 6200 swing low. Okay. Now, if that's going to happen, then of course we'll just have a simple expectation of a 50% pullback, right? Something like that. So that our potential kind of a retracement target short term will be around 6100. Okay, so this one will keep track of how this is going to develop within the week. Then we have GBPJPY, right? So this one here, quite clear in terms of what structure we are looking at, as well as the direction. So we have market breaking out, pulling back, respecting this low here, form some sort of an impulsive leg up, break that high as well. So right now it's doing a corrective development, right? So the key area is obviously here, 15,618. Confluences with the bottom of the channel. We have this minor little low here as well as a potential liquidity sweep too. So that is something that we can look into, right? If I go down to the lower time frame, I do have a setup here on the pound yen as well. Okay, but this is on the hourly time frame, right? So there's a good possibility market would respect this, right? So that's the fair value gap aligns very nicely with 6167. We have that breakout structure here as well. Of course, our current invalidation on the lower time frame is this low. Okay. But I'm also aware that the market can actually make a move down, doesn't really need to react off there, keep going down, and then take out this low here as a liquidity before the bounce. All right, that can happen. Okay, in other words, if we're going to take this trade here, then this buy might end up with a stop loss first before we look for a second potential entry. But But again, nothing is certain, right? We don't know for sure what's going to happen. That's why we have our stop loss point, right? Which means that even if this really comes down, take us out. We know what is the worst case scenario. Okay. Alternatively, what you can do, okay, if you are having that capacity and the resource to actually keep track of the market, then you can actually consider the fact that you don't need to place a pending order, right? Because for me, I always just place a pending order. Now, what you can do is you can wait for price to come in into this level, okay, and go down to maybe on a lower time frame, let's say the 15-minute chart, and wait for that 15-minute chart confirmation, and you take the trade on a 15-minute. Okay, so this gives you the part where if you don't get the 15-minute reversal, you don't take the trade, right? And therefore you can filter off the possibility where this would just keep going, right? But of course, if you want to do that, it means, as I mentioned, you need to have that capacity to monitor the markets. Okay, what you can do is basically you can set an alarm here. If price tag that level, the alarm goes off. You get a notification, and then you just start monitoring the market from there for potential reversal entry point. Okay, now for my style, I don't really like doing that. And oftentimes I'll just place a pending order and then just assess, okay, if this can go down and hit my stop, so be it, and I'll just look for the next potential entry trade. Okay, so just want to highlight on that for the pound yen. Next up, we have the odd yen, right? So odd yen over here, we have the impulsive break. So right now we're just going to be waiting for the pullback before really looking for the buy or sort of. So really nothing there. You just want to be patient and let the market have sufficient time to do what it wants. Then we'll come back another time. Pound Australia, we did have a shift in the direction as well, right? Price took out that low with momentum. Okay, we're coming very, very close to the previous obvious low as well. Haven't really tagged it, but I think there's a very good possibility price will just break it. Okay, so right now the momentum is to the downside, obviously. Okay, if you zoom out, you can see that overall, it's not going to be surprising if price just keep going lower, and then the top has been established, right? So from here, what we are gonna look out for is for price to actually do a corrective pullback, right? If this pulls back correctively, then that opens up an opportunity that we can look for a sell trade setup. But until then, just be patient, right? Then lastly, my list is gonna be BTC. Okay. Now I don't actively trade the crypto market. Okay, but for those of you who are in it, right, kind of cover this. Even last month, I mentioned that you really want to focus on the bullish side of things. That's very good. There's a very good possibility Bitcoin would just break all-time high and just keep going, right? So, yeah, we are breaking all-time high. We are likely gonna hit higher. How far it can go, to be honest, there's no limit to that. Okay. If you really want to do a projection, okay, what we can do here is just simply, take this lake, and then you basically just duplicate do extension of it, right? Which you can see, as I mentioned, is really the upside is there's no cap, right? There's no cap because Bitcoin is basically a very, very speculative asset, and supply is kind of already limited, and it's really based on the demand that pushes price higher, right? So focus on upside as a bias, and I would say any sort of a corrective pullback would open up the opportunity to look for the buy. And if you are in any of a buy trade, at a better price point, at a lower price point, it's really something you can consider what we call trailing stop, right? Which means you probably don't want to exit the entire position all at once. Hey, you want to secure some profits, maybe exit partial and things like that. Trail your stop. You don't want to trail it too aggressively as well because you can potentially turn a short-term entry or a swing trade entry into a long-term investment position. Okay, same thing to gold, right? You can turn a short-term entry to potentially a long-term investment position because some of this asset you have a long-term bias to the upside, right? Yeah, so this is something to look out for Bitcoin. Obviously you don't want to be buying now because the price is at near the top. If you want to buy, wait for the pullback before jumping into the buy trade. Right? So hopefully that helps. Would likely be the dollar Canadian. All right. Gold here, looking out for that as well. Okay, in terms of like this potential setup, I don't have the order in yet. Again, today's Monday. It's just near top, so we're just giving it sufficient time to play out first. And then of course pound yen here as well, right? So these are the couple of ones that is quite obvious as of today, at the start of the week. So those are the ones that I'm looking at. Okay, so yeah, that's for what we have for this week, and then a quick recap on last week's gold trade as well. Hopefully, give you guys some insights to prep up for the week ahead. Okay, yeah, so there's not much